Greetings, this is another reader. Welcome back to my channel. So first of all, I'd like to wish you a happy new year. I hope 2022 will be exciting for you and memorable. I hope you had a great new year with your loved ones. Now, I'd love to start this year with a positive video. This video about the best books I read in 2021. So without further ado, let's get started. The very first book that's in my best books list, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I have to thank my favorite bands for leading me to this book. It's absolutely amazing. This story begins in a tavern where a man named Koth tells the chronicler his story about his childhood, about his parents, and about university. So the main character is a teenager for the most of the book. Because the main character was a student, I caught the Harry Potter vibes from this book. The Name of the Wind is nothing like Harry Potter, but there were some similarities. At least I saw them. One thing that this book made me realize is that I want music to appear more in fantasy novels. Yes, music has a place in fantasy and it should have a more prominent role. Just like in Lord of the Rings, when the songs are there just because. Here music plays an important role and it kind of moves it forward. I really want to read it again. I liked The Wise Man's Fear too, but not as much as The Name of the Wind. This one was a very exciting book. I can say that I felt the main character's pain. I felt Quoth's pain, especially his poverty. A lot of people say that Quoth is kinda garish too, but I disagree. Yes, I can say that he's a kind of wish fulfillment character, but he is written quite well. He isn't a complete garish too. Now, before we move on to the next second book on my list, I want to say that it's a series. I read the first one in 2017, bought the second and third between 2018 and 19, and didn't bother continuing the series until the beginning of the last year. I picked up these books and then I felt like I was watching a high-budget film. The First Law by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second one, Before They're Hanged. I finally finished the First Law series and I'm proud of it. There are The Witcher and the Wheel of Time shows out there. The recently season 2 of The Witcher came out and I want to watch it with my friend. However, probably an unpopular opinion, but I would exchange The Witcher and The Wheel of Time in favor of the First Law TV show. These books seem to be very adaptable, and if they are searching for new Game of Thrones or whatever, this actually is a perfect replacement because it has everything that made Game of Thrones compelling in the first place. And it's not going to just replace it, it's going to offer something new. This series felt very fresh, the characters were very well written. One character in the series that I did not like was Prince Ladislav, in Russian translation Ladislav. Sounds like a Russian name, Vladislav. Because from the very first page I felt he was the First Law's version of Joffrey Baratheon. And when I read this one, there was one scene with him, I was like, yeah, it happened. Yeah. Spoiler alert, he kinda got what he deserved. I don't know if there are some executives from Hollywood or whatever watching me. These books are better than The Witcher and The Wheel of Time as a TV show adaptation. I ignore Wheel of Time TV show completely, and The Witcher isn't that thrilling like Game of Thrones once was. This would be more thrilling than both of these shows. I hope to see a TV show on the First Law one day. As I'm filming this video, it's New Year's Eve, and the third book I'm going to show you is also set near the New Year's Eve. Anxious People by Frederick Backman. Backman was a new author for me that I discovered last year. Before I bought this book, I read The Anxious People online and I couldn't put it down. It was great. The thing that I liked about this book is Frederick Bachman's writing style. I love how he writes about complicated things with humor. He is speculating about life and things like that. So the story is set during the New Year's Eve. It's about a group of people who got captured by a failed burglar, a burglar that tried to rob the bank. And while they are all captured inside an apartment that they're looking, there's a story behind all of these characters. All of these are with their own story, with their own flaws, and it's very sad and very funny at the same time. One of the characters listens to death metal to cope with thoughts. She says, death metal is so powerful, it makes me stop thinking too much, or something like that. The fourth book on this list, I didn't think I'd have it. I remember that in June 2021 I watched a video on YouTube about musician biographies. There were biographies of Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, Queen, Metallica, Brainstorm, and so on, and Scorpions, a German band. This biography came very first and I remembered it most of all. And then, when 2 months later I went to Moscow, I saw this biography in the store. I was looking at it, wondering where I have seen it, and it turned out that it was the biography from the video. I was excited to buy this. I Am Ozzy by Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne autobiography. It isn't just about rock and roll lifestyle and the head of the bad head, but also post-war England, days in jail, the troubles of the show business. And if you know a little about Ozzy Osbourne's biography, you probably know what kind of lifestyle he had. Oh, here's the one funny quote. I left Black Sabbath, I told my father, so they're doomed, he said, and fell asleep. This dialogue is one of the reasons I got myself this book. In this biography he tells about his childhood, school days, about the time where he was in jail and his jobs and meeting and the guys from Black Sabbath and then forming the band, their way to the success, and then wild rock and roll lifestyle, and then getting kicked out of Black Sabbath, his first marriage, then the second marriage and children and things like that. He is alive up until 2009 because that's the year the biography got released. This book is full of swear words. It's uncensored, I'd say. When I was flying back from Moscow to Tbilisi, I took this on the plane with me. I was reading this and I forgot about everything. I've forgotten about everything. I was just reading this and enjoying myself on the plane. And I also had my headphones on and my ears were blasted by metal. I remember that I was listening to Blind Guardian albums. I recommend reading this even if you aren't an Ozzy Osbourne fan. One of the highlights of the last year was flying to Moscow. I got myself books that I wouldn't have got otherwise, because ordering them from Russia is very expensive and you also have to wait for a long time. Flying to Moscow made things easier. In Moscow I got myself Dune by Frank Herbert. This is number 5 on my best books list. This was an unplanned purchase. I didn't intend to buy Dune, but when I entered the shop and saw this edition with the first 3 novels, Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, I couldn't resist. The story of Paul Atreides is very compelling. This book is simple to read, but it's also complex at the same time. I already have a review on my channel. Here I just want to sing praises again and cry that I didn't get to see the film in theater. I'd probably watch it at home. I'm glad that I completed the first book before seeing the film. Just like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, it's split into 2 parts, and just part 1, the half of the first book, came out. And I have finished reading the full first book and I can easily watch it without fear of spoilers. The 6th book on my list, and also 3rd and last book that I got in Moscow, I wanted to get it in 2015, but I couldn't find it, at least in the right edition. I bought myself the Georgian edition first, and I also tried reading it online. Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I remember the Laika film. It was very good, all the way too dark and scary. The film that was kinda expanded in comparison to the novel. The novel is very short, as you can see. I can easily say that I like how some twists were revealed and how some things were done in the book more than in the film. I just love the cover. Just look how beautiful it is. Illustrated by Chris Riddle. It's a super cover and it's the same over here. My favorite Neil Gaiman novel used to be The Graveyard Book, and I still love it, but now it's Coraline. It's weird and it's exciting. Number 7 on my list is The Children of Horrend by J.R.R. Tolkien, edited by Christopher Tolkien. Just look how beautiful this edition is, although it's kinda hard for me to open. Anyway, this is a separate story from the Silmarillion. It focuses on Túrin Turambar, the son of Húrin, and also his sister Nienor, and how Morgoth's curse takes over them and changes their lives. In fairness, I'd argue how much happened because Morgoth cursed Húrin's family, and how much happened because of Túrin's actions. However, this still is a very dark and doomiest story from the Silmarillion. When I was reading the Silmarillion version of the story, I thought it made A Song of Ice and Fire seem like an uplifting, non-dangerous tale, because it was very dark and gloomy, and the darkness and gloominess is reflected in the story of Children of Horrend. However, I also think that the Silmarillion version was more doomy than the separate version. I'd love to read this again. And I also love the illustrations. If you are a Tolkien fan, a Tolkien nerd, you would love this very much. Especially if you are a foreign language Tolkien nerd and you want to read in English. This is amazing, alongside Beren and Luthien. And 7th and last book on my list is a book series. These books are very big. I needed months to finish each of them. I read the first 3 ones, and the 4th one I will read this year. And that's the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book, The Way of Kings. Just look at the cover, it's very beautiful. I took the first book because that's the first book, yeah, makes sense. However, I prefer the second one, Words of Radiance, because that's where the action starts. It's much more interesting. This one is a very long introduction to something epic, but it's great nonetheless.